The Grand Blackwood Hotel loomed before me, a Gothic monolith against the dying light. Its facade was a tapestry of decay, with ivy clinging to crumbling stone like grasping fingers. A shiver, unconnected to the chill wind, snaked down my spine. This place had a presence, a weight that pressed down on me. I pushed open the heavy oak doors, their groan echoing through the cavernous lobby. Dust motes danced in the faint light that filtered through grimy windows, illuminating faded grandeur and the scent of damp, forgotten things. Behind the check-in counter, a figure stirred. An elderly man, his face a roadmap of wrinkles, looked up at me with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of the hotel's history. "Evening," he rasped, his voice like dry leaves rustling. "You must be Mr. Davis." I nodded, my unease growing with each passing second. As I signed the guest register, a sound from the shadows at the back of the lobby caught my ear, a woman's sob, choked and desperate. I turned, my heart pounding. There in the gloom sat a woman shrouded in darkness. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs, her face hidden from view. A chill ran through me, a primal fear that whispered of things unseen and unheard. I hesitated, caught between a sense of unease and a desire to help. "Are you all right, ma'am?" I asked, my voice echoing strangely in the stillness. The woman didn't respond. She continued to weep, her sobs the only sound in the oppressive silence. I looked back at the old man behind the counter. He simply shrugged, a knowing look in his ancient eyes, and handed me a key. "Room 13, he said, his voice raspy. "Don't be out too late, Mr. Davis. Some things are best left undisturbed." I took the key, a cold dread settling in my stomach. The woman's sobs followed me as I climbed the creaking staircase, each step heavy with foreboding. Room 13 was at the end of a long, shadowy corridor. The air grew colder as I approached, the faint scent of mildew clinging to the air. I fumbled with the key, the metal ice cold against my trembling fingers. The door creaked open, revealing a room frozen in time. Dust-covered furniture, faded floral wallpaper, and heavy velvet curtains that seemed to absorb the light. The air was thick with the weight of the past. I stepped inside, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. A single window, its glass grimy and opaque, cast a sickly yellow light into the room. The silence was absolute, broken only by the hammering of my own heart. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease that clung to me like a shroud. This was just an old hotel, I told myself, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. The Grand Blackwood had secrets, dark and ancient secrets, and I had a sinking feeling that I was about to become entangled in them. Dawn broke, casting a pale light through the dusty window of room 13. I had barely slept, haunted by unsettling dreams and the oppressive atmosphere of the hotel. Desperate for fresh air, I decided to explore the grounds. The morning mist clung to the sprawling gardens, shrouding the overgrown paths in an ethereal haze. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. As I rounded a bend in the path, I stopped dead in my tracks. There, hanging from the gnarled branches of an ancient oak, was a woman. Her lifeless eyes stared vacantly through me, her long dark hair cascading around her shoulders like a macabre halo. She wore a long, flowing red dress, the color a stark contrast to the pale skin of her lifeless face. A scream caught in my throat, my blood turning to ice in my veins. This was no dream. This was a nightmare. Panic seized me, my mind reeling. I stumbled back, my gaze fixed on the horrifying spectacle before me. I had to get help, to call the police. Turning on my heel, I ran back towards the hotel, my breath catching in my chest. I burst through the heavy oak doors, my heart pounding against my ribs. The lobby was deserted, the only sound the faint ticking of an ancient grandfather clock. I raced to the front desk, my hand trembling as I picked up the phone. Dead. The line was dead. A wave of dizziness washed over me, the walls seeming to close in. I was trapped in this nightmare with a dead woman hanging in the garden. And something told me that this was only the beginning. I stumbled back to room 13, my mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly before me, the air thick with a palpable sense of dread. I fumbled with the doorknob, my hands slick with sweat. As I stepped inside, a gust of icy wind slammed the door shut behind me. I spun around, my heart leaping into my throat. Standing in the doorway, her white dress shimmering in the dim light, was the woman from the garden. Her eyes, once vacant, now burned with an eerie intensity. She took a step towards me, her lips parting in a silent snarl. Terror, raw and consuming, washed over me. This was no hallucination, this was real. I backed away, my gaze fixed on the spectral figure before me. She continued to advance, her movements fluid and unnatural. "Stay back!" I shouted, my voice hoarse with fear, but my words had no effect. She was relentless, her eyes burning into me with a cold, malevolent fire. I stumbled over the rug, my back hitting the wall. There was nowhere left to run. She was upon me in an instant, her icy fingers closing around my throat. I gasped for air, my vision blurring at the edges. The scent of damp earth and decay filled my nostrils, choking me. I thrashed against her grip, but it was no use. Her strength was inhuman. I was fading, slipping away into the darkness. Just when I thought all hope was lost, a surge of adrenaline coursed through me. I grabbed the heavy bedside lamp and swung it with all my might. It connected with her head with a sickening thud, and she vanished into thin air. I lay there for a moment, gasping for breath, my body trembling uncontrollably. I had to get out of this hotel, now! I scrambled to my feet and ran to the door, fumbling with the lock. It wouldn't budge. It was as if the door itself was holding me captive. Panic surged through me once more, threatening to consume me. I threw myself against the door again and again, but it wouldn't give. I was trapped. Then, I heard it. A soft, mournful sigh, coming from right behind me. I turned slowly, my heart pounding against my ribs. She was back. The woman in white stood in the middle of the room, her eyes burning with an unholy light. Her lips curled into a cruel smile, and she slowly extended her hand towards me. "There's no escape," she whispered, her voice a chilling rasp. "You're mine now." As her icy fingers closed around my wrist, I screamed. A scream that echoed through the empty halls of the Grand Blackwood Hotel. A desperate plea lost in the darkness. And then...